You can have all the money in the world, but when you go up in a game of chess against the best chess player in the world, it can get rough. You won't even be able to last more than a minute in the game. Bill Gates faced this kind of embarrassment when he went head-to-head in this exhibition chess game against the great Magnus Carlsen. Although Gates knew he wouldn't win, he probably didn't expect such a blowout. Before we get into the details of their game, it's better to point out exactly how good they are regarding the game they played. Carlsen isn't just the best player in chess in the world right now, but he is also regarded as one of the greatest chess players in history. His ability to read and move several moves before is just incredible. This not only keeps him a cut above the rest, but players are already intimidated when they know they'll be facing Carlsen in a chess game. His talent and achievements in the game are second to none. Although Gates knew that, he still went ahead with a friendly chess game. Wrong move, Bill. They are now coming to the other player in this chess match. Bill Gates knows everything there is to know about money and computers. However, he might be better of a chess player than he might believe. Well, anyone can be made to look like a newbie when facing Carlsen, but Gates' loss was very quick if we're being honest. The game occurred in 2014 when Frederick Skavlan, the famous TV show host, had Gates and Carlsen on his show. After the occasional chit-chat, the two had a chessboard, with other guests sitting as well. Apart from all these people, you also had a crowd waiting to be wowed by Magnus Carlsen. Gates probably went into the game ready to lose, as we said before, but as quickly as he did, that was a bit sore. Magnus Carlsen took only 9 moves and 12 seconds to checkmate the great Bill Gates. The game was practically over in the first 3 moves which Gates made. By playing a tricky defense as black, Carlsen caused Gates to make a terrible third move, which allowed Carlsen to wrap up the game in record time. As the game began, Gates, playing with the white pieces, started with the traditional king pawn, which Bobby Fischer refers to as the best by test. It took Gates a few moments to decide on which pawn he would move, but when he did, Carlsen immediately replied from his end. Carlsen's move was different from what you would usually expect from him. He moves out his queen knight, rather than responding by moving his own pawn. This is a move that you would expect from an amateur. A move that Gates saw coming from a mile away. Gates then made his second move, which was to develop his king knight. When he did that, Carlsen decided to make things a little interesting. That is when he advanced his queen pawn, which allowed him to attack Gates' unprotected king pawn. It was clear from this point that Carlsen was willing to checkmate Gates as quickly as possible. What followed were voices of ooh and ah from the crowd as the two continued their game. The third move for Gates is when he commits a colossal blunder. It is the move that ends up costing him the game. Of course, it shows that Gates is a casual chess player who doesn't live and breathe the game like Carlsen. What Gates does is that he advances his king's bishop to protect his king's pawn. This was a wrong move because his bishop was protecting his king's pawn, and the bishop was now stuck with nowhere to move. Gates could not have thought of this immediately after playing the move, so his bishop is also blocking his queen pawn. This prevents the moving forward of the pawn to attack the center. Since Gates can't move his queen pawn forward, Gates is blocking the development of his queen bishop. So overall, he puts his bishop on a horrible square in a single move. He ends up blocking his path and blocking his other bishop. This strategic disaster only leaves Carlsen free to win the game in the next couple of moves. From then on, there is no way that Gates can somehow return to the game. He lost his footing from a position that could have been built on. Losing the tempo so early on in a chess game is reflective of his inexperience. Now, Carlsen just had to sweep him off his feet. When it was Carlsen's turn to make the next move, he teased Gates until he knew a checkmate was confirmed on the cards. Carlsen first developed his king knight, after which Gates took Carlsen's queen pawn. Carlsen replied to this move by taking one of Gates' pieces using his queen. This move took a split second by Carlsen. Or, for Carlsen, this was more of muscle memory than actual skill. Subsequently, Gates advanced his knight, prompting Carlsen to relocate his recently developed queen to the board's edge, exerting direct pressure on Gates' king side. It's worth noting that Carlsen's rapid pace of play resulted in camera shots struggling to keep up, failing to capture the board after Gates' move. Even the cameraman knew that this game wouldn't last as long as he or many others think it will. Gates then proceeds to the castle, which allows him to move his king closer to Carlsen's queen. Another bad move that makes things a little too easier for Carlsen. Gates still doesn't know this yet, but he is about to, when that checkmate comes out of seemingly nowhere. Carlsen then develops his bishop, which allows him to clamp down further on the side of Gates and his king. Following that, Gates advanced his pawn in front of his king's rook, threatening Magnus' bishop. However, instead of retreating the bishop, Magnus opted to advance his knight towards Gates, signaling a potentially ominous indication that Gates was walking into a strategic trap. Gates captured Magnus' bishop using a pawn, securing a temporary material advantage. In response, Magnus promptly recaptured the bishop with his knight. Subsequently, Gates committed a significant mistake by employing his king's knight to capture Magnus' knight positioned at the center of the board. This overly ambitious move gave Magnus a straightforward checkmate opportunity as he swiftly deployed his queen to secure the victory. This was probably one of the most testing chess games in the life of Bill Gates, while being seemingly the opposite for Magnus Carlsen. Two completely flip sides of a coin. Gates would be glad it was nothing more than a friendly game. That is how the two of them treated it to be. However, it makes us wonder if Gates is so relentless in an exhibition game. How would he be during a competitive game? Nevertheless, Gates appreciates Carlsen's skills and seems quite impressed when the game ends. His face shows that he did expect the loss, but didn't expect it to come early. The crowd is also quite impressed with Carlsen's game, as they didn't expect him to checkmate Bill Gates in just 11 seconds.